Liberia's political conscience tested, George Weah, death rumors, and the digital war tearing a nation apart. False rumors, online hate, and a nation's moral test. Liberia finds itself at a dangerous crossroads. When political rivalry turns into death wishes, can democracy survive? This is not just about George Weah. It's about the soul of a nation. Welcome to the Bold African Voice, where we tell Africa's stories, boldly, fairly, and without fear. Hello, I'm Amie, Kallon, and this is Africa Now, Weekly Digest. Tonight, we dissect how a false rumor about the former Liberian president shook a nation, exposing deeper political wounds and echoing a growing crisis across Africa. The crisis of digital cruelty. It began last week with a whisper, a false rumor, that George M. Weah, formerly president of Liberia and globally known as a former world-class footballer, had fallen seriously ill while in Rabat, Morocco. He was attending major events with FIFA, including the Under-17 Women's World Cup final. From that innocuous social media post, the rumor spiraled from "Weah is ill" to "Weah is dead." allafrica.com. And then the ugliness set in. On Twitter, Facebook, WhatsApp groups, some Liberians, bitterly divided along party lines, began celebrating the supposed demise of their once president. Death wishes floated freely. One trajectory of discourse: he's ill, let him die, good riddance. The idea of a human being, alive but under threat of hype death, became a tool of political hostility. Montserrado County Senator Abraham Darius Dillon captured the horror in one phrase: "It's like we are losing our humanity to politics." Meanwhile, the government of former President Weah tried corrective action. His chief of staff, Len Eugene Nagbe, published live videos showing Weah greeting FIFA chief Gianni Infantino and participating in international duties. Still, the rumor mill churned. Altered photos, conspiracy theories, trolls yelling, "He's hiding, he's sick," despite public proof. Weah himself responded with calm defiance. In a WhatsApp message, "I guess I resurrected. Glory be to our great God. Thank you, Father, for keeping me safe." Then udonliberia.com+1. And in what might seem an odd joke given the context, he quipped that he was simply trying to watch the football match in peace and didn't want people claiming Moroccan doctors put machine in my pocket. Now, let's examine what this incident signals. Beyond embarrassment, beyond a wild rumor. What it lays bare is a series of political wounds in Liberia, and by extension in Africa, that merit our full attention. 1. The normalization of dehumanization in politics. Earlier this year, supporters of Weah's party, the Congress for Democratic Change, CDC, held a so-called casket parade with an effigy of then-candidate Joseph Boakai in a coffin. That moment is now widely regarded as a symbolic precursor to the current climate of "I wish you dead." When political rivalry slides into a public theater of death-wishing, something fundamental breaks: the sense of shared humanity, the respect for life, even of one's adversary. 2. The politicization of health and life. Health scares have long been manipulated in African politics. Leaders pretending illness, rumors of death to destabilize rivals, opponents weaponizing vulnerability. In Liberia, the fact that a former president's well-being became a battlefield is telling. The rumor was sparked while Weah was abroad attending a FIFA event, yet the uproar erupted at home. What does that tell us? That in the digital age, speculative narratives metastasize swiftly. And when political culture lacks guardrails, they can metastasize into celebratory cruelty. 3. A wider African continental echo. Liberia is not alone. Across Africa, politics often bleeds into identity, emotion, and even anger at the level of life and death. Consider parallels. In some countries, rumors of a leader's death or disappearance ignite coups, mass protests, or panic. In others, political opponents are literally killed or disappear. What we see in Liberia is a milder but still dangerous reflection of that pattern, a situation where wishing death becomes a tactic of power or expression of contempt. The danger: when the line between political contest and existential threat dissolves, democracy itself is at stake. 4. The post-conflict fragility. Liberia bore 2 civil wars ending in 2003. Its scars remain: social, political, economic. Former warlords remain kingmakers. Distrust is deeply rooted. In a country that once saw presidents killed, a senator pointed out how having former presidents alive among us is a blessing. If politics can descend to wishing death, how stable is the foundation of the state? The rumor episode reopened the question: what kind of country are Liberians becoming? Looking ahead, what must change? Let us shift to the future, because if Liberia is to heal, there are steps the nation must take, and lessons for the rest of Africa. Re-establish norms of decency. Political actors, parties, journalists, civil society must rebuild the idea that politics is contested in ideas, not in celebrating each other's demise. A code of ethics for online discourse should be promoted, especially given how social media amplified the crisis. Strengthen digital age resilience. Rumors thrive in the dark. The government, media outlets, and civil society organizations need rapid response mechanisms to counter disinformation. But this must be done with respect for freedom of speech. The goal is clarity, not censorship. Promote inclusive national dialogue. Liberia needs to revisit its national reconciliation agenda with fresh urgency. The infrastructure built after the wars must be renewed, not only to deal with war legacies, but with evolving contestation of politics. Wounds may be old, but political culture must be updated. Regional peer learning. Liberia can look towards other African nations that made strides in healing political rivalry. For example, in Ghana or Botswana, where transitions of power were managed with relatively more decorum. Conversely, Liberia must caution itself by examining states where politics morphed into hostility and violence, e.g., parts of the Sahel or the Great Lakes region. The continent's experience offers both warnings and guide rails. Youth engagement. Much of this cruelties emerge online and among younger demographics. Empowering youth with political literacy, civics education, and a culture of democratic values is critical. If we lose that generation to cynicism and dehumanization, the consequences will last for decades. Role of former leaders. Figures like George Weah can play a role in turning the page. His international standing, in football, diplomacy, public life, gives him moral currency. The fact that he responded with humor and calm is a ray of hope. But beyond that, leadership in public ethics matters, acknowledging that even opponents have dignity. What happened in Liberia last week is more than a mere rumor. It is a symptom of a political system where contempt is permitted, where empathy is optional, where life itself can become the object of partisanship. If Liberia does not arrest this trajectory, the risk is not just a country divided, but a democracy eroded. And yet, there remains hope. The backlash against the death wish posts came swiftly. Across party lines, voices called out the inhumanity. That matters. It means there are still Liberians who believe politics should respect life. For Africa as a whole, this is a moment to reflect. The digital age has heightened our stakes. Bots, tweets, social media mobs do not respect national borders. Whoever leads tomorrow must understand, politics in Africa is no longer local only. When it touches humanity, it belongs to all of us. A society struggling between faith and political fanaticism. Liberia is a deeply religious country, a place where churches, mosques, and prayer houses dot every community. Yet the venom seen on social media tells a different story. It's as though the same hands that lift the Bible or Quran on Sunday are typing curses by Monday morning. Political discourse has become intertwined with fanaticism, not ideology. The parties, Weah's Congress for Democratic Change, CDC, and President Joseph Boakai's Unity Party, have become identity markers rather than vehicles of governance. To support one side is to despise the other. The digital war over Weah's supposed death only proved this point. Politics has mutated into a substitute religion, and in that religion, mercy is in short supply. This spiritual contradiction is not unique to Liberia. Across Africa, faith and politics have formed uneasy marriages, from Nigeria's Pentecostal politicians to Kenya's prophet politicians, and even in Sierra Leone, where sermons often blend with campaign messages, yet the message of love and compassion central to every faith is being replaced by tribal loyalty and party devotion. The Weah episode serves as a mirror reflecting how belief systems are being hijacked by political narratives. When people who claim to be God-fearing celebrate the death of another, it's not politics. It's moral decay. The weaponization of social media. Another layer to this story lies in how social media has become a weapon of destruction rather than a tool of democracy. In Liberia, the platforms that once helped amplify citizens' voices during elections are now amplifying division and disinformation. A report by Front Page Africa noted that over 60% of Liberia's social media traffic during the last election cycle was politically motivated, with hundreds of fake accounts pushing propaganda and doctored content. Many of those same networks resurfaced in the recent wave of false news about Weah. This trend is mirrored elsewhere in Africa. In Ghana, fake death reports about opposition figures circulated ahead of elections. In Nigeria, rumors about President Buhari's supposed death in 2017 and his alleged body double replacement went viral globally and were never fully debunked in the public imagination. Across Africa, disinformation has evolved into a digital disease, feeding on ignorance, political frustration, and a lack of accountability. Liberia's tragedy is therefore not isolated. It is part of a continental contagion, the weaponization of the algorithm. As one media analyst in Monrovia observed, "We are no longer just fighting corruption in our politics. We're fighting corruption in our information." The generational divide. It's also essential to look at the generational aspect of Liberia's political culture. The young people, many of whom have never known war, are now caught between two eras: the old Liberia of trauma and the new Liberia of uncertainty. This generation, energetic, digitally active, and often unemployed, has inherited the bitterness of their parents but not the wisdom of their struggle. Many of those celebrating or amplifying the false news about Weah were under 35. They didn't live through the horrors of Samuel Doe's execution or Charles Taylor's reign. They know instability only through headlines, not experience. But here lies the danger. If youth grow up thinking politics is war by other means, Liberia could once again flirt with the ghosts of its violent past. As one youth activist in Gabarnga put it, "Our parents fought with guns. We are fighting with memes." The line may sound witty, but it reveals a dangerous reality. Online hostility is fast becoming a precursor to real-world conflict. And if left unchecked, the next crisis in Liberia might not come from the jungles, but from the comment sections. The African parallel, when politics becomes personal. Across Africa, this same dehumanization of politics has taken root. In Zimbabwe, the death of former leader Robert Mugabe was met with mixed emotions. Some mourned, others cheered. In Côte d'Ivoire, rumors about the health of Alassane Ouattara in 2020 sparked panic and political maneuvers. In Cameroon, similar whispers about President Paul Biya's age and health often lead to diplomatic anxiety. Even in South Africa, where democracy is relatively mature, political opponents exchange insults that sometimes border on racial and personal attacks. It's a pattern. When political culture fails to separate the individual from the institution, the politics of ideas collapses into the politics of hate. What Liberia is witnessing now is not new, but it is alarming because the country's democratic journey is still fragile. After the post-Civil War years of rebuilding, it is heartbreaking to see discourse sink into this level of venom. Liberia's rebirth was meant to represent hope for post-conflict Africa, but incidents like this remind us that peace is not just the absence of war, it is the presence of humanity. The role of the media and public figures. We must also examine the media's role, both traditional and digital. While platforms like Front Page Africa, The New Dawn Liberia, and Daily Observer have worked diligently to fact-check and clarify false rumors, the absence of a robust regulatory framework for online journalism leaves room for manipulation. Entertainers like Gregory Artus Frank have tried to use their platforms to calm tensions, calling for empathy over enmity. His message, George Weah is sick. Joseph Boakai is sick. Till we're wishing death for either of our leaders? Politics has blinded us, resonated widely, but his post also attracted trolling from extremist supporters. It's a pattern that silences reason and rewards rage. The more divisive you are, the more engagement you receive, a dynamic that has turned toxicity into digital currency. In the long term, Liberia must decide whether freedom of expression will remain a tool for liberation or a license for destruction, toward a new national ethic. Liberia's challenge today is not just political reform, but moral reconstruction. From churches to classrooms, from marketplaces to ministries, there is a need to reteach values of decency, truth, and empathy. When Senator Amara Kallon reminded Liberians that for a country that killed its presidents, having former presidents alive among us is a blessing, his words cut deep. They served as both warning and wisdom. Liberia cannot afford to normalize hatred. It has paid that price before. But the question remains, will the nation listen this time? Will political parties, influencers, and media institutions finally understand that cruelty is not power and that democracy cannot coexist with dehumanization? Because if politics continues to be practiced as vengeance, then peace becomes nothing more than a fragile pause between conflicts. Regional reflection, the ECOWAS and AU dimension. The Liberian case offers a timely test for regional institutions like ECOWAS and the African Union. While these bodies have focused heavily on election monitoring, coup prevention, and constitutional crises, the new front in Africa's political instability is digital, misinformation, hate speech, and the erosion of empathy through social media. ECOWAS Supplementary Protocol on Democracy and Good Governance, 2001, commits member states to promote free expression without undermining national cohesion. Yet, as Liberia's crisis shows, the region still lacks a clear framework to combat political disinformation that incites division or violence. Some progress is emerging. In Senegal, the government and civil society launched a digital responsibility campaign that teaches youth to detect fake news. Ghana has invested in media literacy programs to counter political trolling. Kenya's judiciary recently recognized coordinated online disinformation as a threat to national security. These examples demonstrate that Africa can respond, but only if leaders treat information warfare with the same seriousness they treat armed conflict. After all, digital chaos is merely the modern battlefield. The cost of silence. What makes the Liberian incident more tragic is not only the rumor itself, but the silence of many who knew better. Too often, public figures stay quiet when the mob is loudest. It is this silence, the polite refusal to condemn inhumanity, that normalizes cruelty. When leaders, clergy, and intellectuals fail to speak out, The social media mobs fill the moral vacuum. And as history has shown, silence is never neutral. It sides with the aggressor. From Monrovia to Nairobi, from Freetown to Harare, Africa's democracies are learning that defending truth is not a partisan act. It is a patriotic duty. Liberia's moral test, therefore, is not only about Weah's reputation, but about whether its citizens will choose compassion over cruelty the next time rumors rise. A call to African citizens. To the citizens of Africa, let us be clear. We are the gatekeepers of our continent's moral fabric. Each time we share unverified information, we risk tearing that fabric apart. Each time we celebrate another's suffering, we betray the very humanity that binds us. Social media gives us the power to shape narratives, but that power demands responsibility. We must learn to pause before posting, to verify before sharing, to think before reacting. The screens in our hands are tools, but they can easily become weapons. Let us return to the Ubuntu principle that once defined African communities. I am because we are. If we rediscover that truth, no rumor can divide us, no propaganda can corrupt us, and no political rivalry can destroy us. A call to African leaders. To the leaders of Africa, presidents, ministers, opposition figures, and influencers. This is your reminder. Power is temporary, but your legacy is eternal. The measure of leadership is not in how you defeat your rivals, but how you protect your nation's dignity while doing so. When citizens attack one another over politics, it reflects a failure of leadership. When people wish death upon a former president, it signals a deeper sickness, not in the individual, but in the body politic itself. Leaders must lead by example, with humility, civility, and restraint. They must reject politics of personality and embrace politics of purpose. And they must understand that reconciliation is not weakness, it is wisdom. Liberia, like many African nations, needs leaders who heal rather than humiliate. Summary of the key messages. Liberia's false rumors about George Weah's death reveal deeper fractures, a society torn between loyalty and empathy, truth and tribalism. Social media has become both a mirror and a magnifier of our moral crisis. What we see online reflects what we tolerate offline. Dehumanization in politics is not unique to Liberia. It is a continental trend that threatens democracy across Africa. The solution is ethical leadership and digital responsibility, from the presidency to the palm of every citizen's hand. Peace is not just the absence of war, it is the presence of respect. Respect for truth, for life, and for each other. Final reflection. As we close tonight's program, let us remember the words of Amie. For a country that killed its presidents, having former presidents alive among us is a blessing. Indeed, Liberia's journey, and Africa's, will depend not on how loud our politics becomes, but on how deeply we listen to one another. The rumor that sought to divide Liberia may yet become the reminder that unites it, if only its people choose compassion over cruelty and truth over tribalism. As Liberia wrestles with its conscience, one truth stands clear. Democracy dies not only from coups, but from cruelty. The rumor that sought to divide the people should instead remind us of our shared humanity. For Africa to move forward, we must learn to fight ideas, not people. I'm Amie Kallon, and you've been watching The Bold African Voice, Africa Now Weekly Digest. Stay bold, stay informed, and remember, democracy survives through empathy. Don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe for more bold and fearless African analysis. Until next time, good night, Africa.